You need to make sure that all the information from a customer is in the system accurately before you start negotiations. But what I mean by that is that if your salesperson doesn't have a guest sheet completed, if the information of the customer is not in the system, number one, you cannot prove that the customer has been there before. You cannot prove that this customer belongs to somebody else. And number three, you need to make sure that the salesperson knows what they're talking about before they try to sell somebody a vehicle, whether it's $10,000 or $200,000. It doesn't matter. You need to know your customer's name. You know, one of the first things that I ask a salesperson when they're negotiating is, what's your customer's name? You know what the number one answer is? That's the most common name of customers coming into car dealerships these days. What's your customer's name? That is the name. So as a sales manager, it is your job to make sure that that worksheet is completed. And if it's not completed and the salesperson wants numbers, I want you to crumple it up, turn it into a ball, and toss it. They will only do it a couple of times. After that, they'll learn. If they don't have the information, you should not be giving numbers to anyone. You need to take their job seriously in order for you to be taken seriously. Number three, if you're lucky enough that you are able to sell a vehicle, it is your responsibility to make sure that all pertinent documentation is accurate. Driver license, credit cards, ownership on the trades, kilometers on the trades, lien holder on the trade. It is your job to make sure that all that information is accurate. If you are given that responsibility to your business manager, you miss the entire point of your job. It is not the job of a finance manager to make sure that that information that is given to them is, number one, there or accurate. That should be completed. The whole idea is to facilitate the streamlining of the sales process. And if you don't do your job, something is going to fall through the cracks, and then you cannot complain that the job is not being performed properly. Number two, as a sales manager, it is the second most important thing that you need to know. Okay? This is very, very important. Folks, you need to pay attention. Then number two, biggest responsibility that you have as a sales manager in a car dealership. You need to know the closing ratio of the store, and you need to know the closing ratio of every single one of your salespeople. You need to know your batting average, folks. If you don't know what your closing ratio for the store is, how would you know what is working? How would you know who your best salesperson is? Because I can tell you this, that often the salesperson that sells the most cars is not the best salesperson. If you have somebody that is selling 25 cars a month, but they're talking to 100 people a month, and you have somebody that is selling 10 cars a month, but they only talk to 20 people a month, who is the better salesperson? I'm not going to tell you that you need to know math, because over my career, I have known many, many sales managers and general sales managers that don't know how to perform basic math at the dealership. You need to know your closing ratio. You need to know who your strong people are. You need to know where you're at. You need to know whether you need more customers or you need to increase your closing. You need to know where you're at. Because if you don't know where you're at, how can you possibly determine where your month is going to go? You don't know. And in my opinion, the number one responsibility that you have as a sales manager at a car dealership is to maximize every single opportunity that comes through the door, that comes through the phone, that comes through the computer. I'm going to repeat this. The number one job that you have as a sales manager in a car dealership is to maximize every opportunity that comes through the door, that comes through the phone, that comes through the computer. And you need to know the numbers of those capitalized opportunities. If your general manager asks you, how many cars have we sold for the month, and you don't know the question, and you don't know the answer to the question, you are dropping the ball, my friend. If you don't know what the profitability of your department is, when the general manager asks you, you don't know your score. You're playing a game and you don't know the score. How does that work? How does that work? How do you know if you're winning or you're losing? How do you know how you're tracking for a month, and how do you know what needs to be done? How do you know if you're going to hit target? How do you know? You need to know your numbers. It is your responsibility to the owner of that operation to make sure that their monies are not being wasted by us just letting the crumbs fall off the table. You see, when the table is full and something falls on the ground, you don't worry about it. But right now, the table is not full. The table is not full, folks. And if you're not squeezing every single sale of every opportunity that comes through the door, you are missing the point of your job.